Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Rentea, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, like all episodes, you are getting me hot off of an experience and just wanting to go through it with all of you and to process and for us to see how we can give ourselves a fighting chance at this thing called health that we're all working on. And I want to start real quick. I got such a nice email from a patient. And of course, I always ask anonymously when I get feedback like this, can I share this part of the email? Because I don't want people to think whenever they're sharing things with me that I'm just going to be spewing it on the podcast or sharing it on social at an Instagram story. And so just know that whenever I share something like this, it's because I've asked the person and that no one is ever under an obligation for me to have to share. But this person had a beginning of the email where they really shared how much the episode where I spoke to Dr. Kamal Patil Sisodia. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes below. If you haven't heard that, that would have been a few months ago at this point. We spoke about menopause and how it relates to metabolic health and really felt that so much more equipped to go talk to their gynecologist the next week about hormone replacement therapy and all the things that we spoke about. But here was the end of the email. And I asked to read this because this is 100% my intention with the podcast. And someone literally wrote this to me. And so I know that we are hitting home on this podcast the way that I want to. So here's what they wrote. There were others that I listened to and that resonated with me, but overall, I just want to say thank you. I love your growth mindset and journey, not destination type thinking. I feel so good about how far I've come, but I know that my journey is lifelong and will change. Your podcast is so real and inviting, and you talk about your kid being sick, and I know you understand the struggles of motherhood. It almost feels more like a conversation with a friend rather than a healthy eating and exercise sermon we usually hear from doctors. Anyways, thank you for doing the podcast. Okay, so I wanted to read that because that is always my intention here. I think that a lot of us in this community, we have been lectured at our entire life. In fact, we are quite preachy even to ourselves. And I feel that we know all of that, but there have been physiologic barriers that have stood in the way that we haven't addressed long enough, just like with women's health, how we have, oh my gosh, if you look at history, we had the term hysteria used about us. It's truly incredible when you look at the history. And so I think the same thing with weight management, how complicated obesity and overweight is. We are just starting to understand it better. And I think that one day we're going to look back and we're going to think this is ludicrous when we would tell people eat less and move more, when we know how these mechanisms work, things like that. So to get this back where it just feels like first of all, that you can see that I'm in it just like you, that, this is a lifelong thing and just really understanding those different aspects. I want to say thank you. And if you ever want to give me feedback, it's renteaclinic@gmail.com. Send me a message. Let me know your thoughts. The other way that I really like to hear back is if you're on my email list. So the easiest way to do this, it's renteaclinic.com. Scroll right to the bottom of that first page. It says, hey, are you on our email list? If not, let's fix that. And every week when you get an email from me, quite often people will just write back what their thoughts were for the episode or if they have questions for me. And I can't tell you how much I love that. So again, if you're not on our email list, make sure that you do that because not everybody is directly emailing me like this patient. So the other thing I wanted to do just real quick, I wanted to give these are some random reflections. Okay. So realize every episode we have timestamps in the show notes. So if you want to skip right to the part where I talk about giving yourself a fighting chance with things, you can skip to that part. But I wanted to just give some reflections real quick. I went to a conference and I don't want to say names because I go to many conferences, but this was a very interesting one. And it was interesting because number one, I had not experienced fat phobia just very flagrantly spoken about. And this showed up in many ways. Number one, doctors actually almost being against the GLP-1 medications, which I just haven't experienced this in a really long time. And it's very fascinating to me, sort of this old guard. And this is very interesting also talking to other doctors, how one of them said how there was a group that she was debating joining, and the owner that owns these multiple clinics the patient had asked that owner, hey, what do you think about starting Manjaro? And I hope I'm kind of paraphrasing this story right, but I have a feeling that this is happening so often, multiple people listening to this today are going to think that this is coming from their organization, that this owner who's a physician who's seeing patients in a specialty clinic said to this male patient, well, you're a smart guy. You know that you don't need that shot, that you just need to move more and eat less. And you know that you don't need that. And can you imagine someone with a chronic medical condition in front of you? Let's just swap it out for any other problem. And here's the thing. I always think we don't need to say this again because it's been said, but we do. So it's like if someone had hypertension in front of them, you wouldn't say, well, you're a smart person. You know how to bring that blood pressure down. Just don't be stressed anymore. Don't eat salt. Change your genetics. You know, all the things that could be leading to high blood pressure. There could be secondary causes that are leading to that. Just be like, you're a smart person. You know how to figure this out. You don't need that med. It's completely ignoring the realities of this being a chronic medical condition. It's also really shaming. I really have to hold on to the fact that we're going to get to a time and a place where we are going to realize that, wow, I'm thinking these people that were not on board, that maybe 10, 20 years down the road, whenever it is that they're going to decide to actually look at the data and get educated on this, that they're going to feel really less than smart for not having supported this movement from the beginning. So anyway, all of that to say, I was shocked to have these conversations in person. I came with a colleague of mine, and I think they thought that I was just going to be quiet, but I am not anymore. And I just said, well, I think this is really biased, your view. And I was just addressing so many different health disparities and things, and I just wasn't quite. And I think people were quite shocked the fact that I would actually stand up and talk for these things. I guess I'm just not at a place in my life anymore where I'm just going to sit there and be quiet and kind of let things go anymore. So that was just quite fascinating. It was also quite fascinating to me that a male speaker on stage again said, well, if they would just lose weight. There were just so many instances in this conference where I just couldn't even believe that in 2024, these things could be verbalized in the way in which they were. Do not worry, I gave the conference feedback. The other thing that was just so incredibly strong at this conference was that this sort of old boys club mentality. And what's really fascinating is all the way in which the male speakers were talking, it was really about how to exert control on patients, on staff members. And it's very interesting because I don't think that females work in this way to control patients. That's a very paternalistic model where it used to be, I'm going to say this and you're going to do it. And that's how it used to be in medicine. That's not how we do things anymore. It's very much so where we educate and we talk to you and we see, does that work for you? And we work with you, right? And so I was just shocked to see that still in this day and age, that the main stage, so there was like a bigger speaking stage and then two smaller stages. The main stage had, I hope I'm counting this right, maybe 2 women speakers and the rest were all men. And that's not to say that there was like a panel where sometimes they would have women on it, but the main, let's say that there were 3 days to the conference, 2 days of them having 8 hours, the other day having 4 hours, and there were not many women on the stage. And you could say, well, more women didn't submit and this and that, but I know that some that submitted didn't get it. And I'm just sitting there and I don't know. I was just really shocked that we have 50% female doctors now and just the representation to not be there and the comments that I was hearing. And so here's the full circle moment where to me, it was just like, whoa, what's happening right now? It's because for years I've surrounded myself with female entrepreneurs, female physicians. So to me, it's been very normalized. We're all doing big things. We're all going places. We're all doing things. And then to come to a conference where a speaker makes the comment, well, one of the keys of your business making it's that you, not only that you have a spouse that's supportive, which, okay, that could be part of it, but that basically that the spouse works for free. So basically all of it, when you spoke to the male speakers, it was that the wife had worked for free for them to start this venture. And part of this, and I'm sorry that this is really not metabolic health, but it's very relevant to what's going on for about 95% of you listening here, because we have majority women that are listening to this podcast. So we know that there is tons of unpaid labor that women are doing. So this proverbial second shift that you will be working all day, and then you come home and you clean the house, you take care of the kids, you do the laundry, you do the planning. When are we going to go to the dentist, the doctor, all these things. Now, many of us, me included, we have amazing spouses that help us with all that stuff. But this unpaid labor and the mental load that's involved with just women in general, it was so incredible for me to see this on stage, how they didn't even understand what they were saying. It was just amazing. So what ended up happening that I was very incredibly grateful for is that magically on the second day, I'm just going to say this moment because it was so powerful to me. And I don't know if anyone that is at that conference is going to hear this, probably not. But the most incredible thing happened, which is me and the friend that I came with, we just at one point decided, you know what, we're not even going to attend all these talks, because it was just clear to me that all these talks were not for me. So we were sitting there talking. They had a lot of vendors that came to this conference. So there's lots of things that would support a direct physician clinic. And so we were talking to all these different people. And then we sat down and we were writing down our goals and what we wanted to do. And then this really nice group developed at lunch and then even afterward. And it was all women physicians, and the stories that they told of what they've gone through. I was crying multiple times, and that was accompanied by a really great dinner. And so what I want to say is, no matter what the scenario looks like, we can always find our belonging. We can always find the community. We can always find the people that are going to support us. And I think that honestly, this applies directly to weight care as well. I was so hurt, to be honest, at the state of things. Like, you constantly think that we're making a step in the right direction and that people are understanding this is a chronic medical condition and they're understanding the power that these medications can help, or a surgery or whatever is needed. And then you still, I should not be shocked by it, but I am. You still get the just majority actually that are just very against it. And so I always think to myself, this is why my clinic exists. So at the Rentea Metabolic Clinic, we do not judge you. We do not shame you. We understand this is a chronic medical condition. Probably everyone that is helping you either has or currently does struggle with weight themselves. And I'm sorry, it matters because the perspective is different. I will never forget, I was talking to someone that was in this space that I don't work with at the moment. And she said, I just don't understand why they can't just eat healthy. Like, these comments come out of their mouth that I don't think they understand how shaming, and the only other word I know how to use is like othering. Like, you just other this whole class of, well, over there, if they could just do these things, like they're just like less than over there. I'm not the most eloquent with my words, but I think you can all understand what I'm feeling. So it was quite fascinating because I really learned why it is more important than ever that I'm creating with Ali Nowitzki here coming up an Obesity Medicine Summit, where we're going to really be talking about the art of obesity medicine, where we explain how we actually practice things and how we actually do things. I'm really sick of seeing teaching happening where it's very ethereal and out there, but nothing's actually practical. People are not actually working with people. It's not helpful to the physicians out there and the other providers that are helping in this area. And so I'm really realizing this calling in me that's getting stronger and stronger, where it's like, I need to be part of the voice. And listen, I guess we're having like just a social, a meta moment here. I never wanted to be the person out there speaking. I only got on social because I knew that people don't know that there's a tool out there that can help. But I didn't ever think that I was going to be the one to actually give the lectures on these meds and teach these things. But you have to, because I go to these conferences and I couldn't believe at a conference that is primary care that we would not be talking at all about weight management, not one of the specialty talks, nothing. So I had so many thoughts after this conference. And again, there were a lot of great things. I know I just said a lot of negative things, but they were just things that shocked me because My mom's a physician. Again, I've been surrounded by female physicians my whole life. All the conferences that I've gone to here over the past few years are female physicians, lots of coaching groups where it's females. And so to me, like, to step into this time capsule where it's like this patriarchal man, I was like, wow, it was fascinating, but it's okay because it fired me up as well. All right. So we did spend a good 15 minutes on this, but I'm sorry, it has to get out there. And you know, it was interesting at this conference. I made the comment to some of them because some of the doctors want to get more on social. And I said, you know, I guess I'm just the person nowadays that talks about the stuff. And I guess that's just the way it is. All right. So we are, so make note, minute 15 is what you want to get to if you want to just talk about the having a fighting chance. So let's shift to this. What I mean by having a fighting chance at your health is that with time, you're going to develop habits, you know, when you're home where you're eating the veggies and you're eating the protein and you're doing all the things, right? It's the same stuff we talk about all the time, but that's never the challenge. Okay. So 99% of the time, the challenge is you go to a birthday party and something's different. You go on vacation, you go to a conference and this stuff is constant. Oh, you go to a dinner at your in-laws and they have some different food. You go out with a friend. Frankly, this is like all the time. And so if we don't learn some healthy boundaries, some ways of giving yourself a shot at it, you always get derailed. So I want to give two examples today, one from the conference and one from right away getting back. I got back on a Sunday and then as of Monday, we were on vacations. We rented a boat that Monday. And I just want to give some examples of how life can be shifting very quickly, but here's how you give yourself a fighting shot. Okay, so number one, I want to talk about protein and fiber, and that I want to give this as tip number one. So I'm going to give just two tips today. So tip number one is if you are committed to your health, then you know that protein and fiber is going to be a big part of it. And you're not just going to do this for weight loss. You're going to do it for gut health. You're going to do it for muscle preservation. You're going to do it for mental health reasons. You're going to do it for so many other reasons. But here's the thing that we want to do to give ourselves a shot at it. We need options in that direction. So I want to give you just several examples from different cases, but wherever you are, there's going to be some version of that. And if there's not, you're going to bring it. So I want to give you an example from the conference. This conference provided a breakfast, a lunch, and then dinner was on our own. So for breakfast, they did have, and again, I say I'm a vegetarian. Nowadays, I've started to incorporate some shrimp. That's been okay. Someone said to me, oh, you're not a vegetarian because the Bear Bells that I have some products in it that are not entirely vegetarian. So I'm not vegan and I'm not against meat products. I just don't like the texture of certain meat. So things that I recommend, I don't want you to view me as like an influencer that's always going to tell you 100% vegetarian products. To me, it's more of a fluid thing and it's taste for me. So I don't mind if there are broths that are meat-based. So again, just please use your own discretion with looking up things and deciding for yourself everything. I'm not meaning when I talk about things for it to be you go eat this. It's just things that I'm enjoying that I find have great amount of protein, things like that. Okay, so for breakfast, the eggs, I don't like at hotels when they do scrambled eggs, they're using some type of a substitute in there and they just don't taste like normal scrambled eggs that you would make at home with real eggs. And so, but I still had some because that was the protein. And then they had fruit. So I had some scrambled eggs and some fruit, even though it was not a desirable breakfast. And it was probably like a third of the size that I would normally have. Now, what was interesting is I brought these protein packs with me. And so this is what I'm talking about, giving myself a fighting chance. I thought that I would be doing one of those protein things in the morning with my decaf. Guess what? The conference started at 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning. So 7 to 5. I didn't even have time to do walks in the morning. I didn't have time to have coffee. I mean, I just got up, had a little bit of the breakfast and then did the rest of the stuff that day, right? So, but again, I got that protein in and then some of the fruit had some fiber in it. Okay, lunch, they did a great job. I was able to pick a salad that they had, or they had a wrap one day that had hummus and a bunch of veggies in it. So I did that. And then I found the protein options. So the point is, whether it's buffet style, whether it's the box lunch that they did one day, I always made sure, is there some amount of protein here? And is there some fiber? That was my go-to and pick. And then with dinner, I went with what I liked, but I started out with a protein appetizer, and that always really helped me, whether it was ricotta had some of it in it, or like a shrimp ceviche, or what else did we have? There was something else protein-based. But the point is, I always made sure, is there a little bit of protein happening here? And then when I got my dinner, I would eat the protein first. But I did have some Alfredo noodles. I love it. And it's like, okay, great. But we had the protein and fiber first. We're going to balance the blood sugar. Wherever you are, We need to give you a fighting chance at this. So are there options that are already there? If not, I had the protein bar on me as a backup. If not, I had up in my hotel room some of the protein packs. Give yourself a fighting chance. I can't tell you how often patients will tell me, well, I'm going to go to this conference and I'm at the mercy of what food they have there. I understand that. I mean, I will tell you, there was the smallest mini fridge ever, and I had thought that I was going to get cottage cheese and hard-boiled eggs. I had this plan in my mind of what I was going to Instacart there. The fridge wasn't even on. And then I realized there was so much stuff happening at this conference, I wasn't even going to screw around with it. So the last conference, that was 100% what I did. This conference, I didn't. And so the reality is you just flex with what's there, but I had all the backup plans in my mind, right? If I had gone down there that morning and the breakfast that they served didn't have any protein, I would have gone to the cafe that they had and got something else. I would have, you can use Grubhub, different food delivery apps to deliver something. You can Instacart yourself whole foods that you can eat in your room. There are so many options, right? So give yourself a fighting chance at it. Be willing to be flexible. Bring some backup options with you if you need to, but be willing to be flexible with the fiber and protein. The reason I say that the protein keeps me satiated, the fiber keeps you regular. Let's be real. when you're on a plane and stuff, if you're not getting your fluids, which I don't ever have trouble with whenever I'm traveling, I just make it a priority constantly to fill up on water at these conferences. And then with getting the fiber stuff like that, there was enough happening. Otherwise, I literally would have ordered lettuce to the room. Okay, that is the first thing there, which is you're still going to get your protein fiber no matter where you're at, but you're going to give yourself some variety and options. Thing number 2, let's talk about if you are doing a beach day, if you are, you're going to the water park, you're going to the beach, you're renting a boat, whatever the scenario might be. Give yourself some options. And I'm saying this a lot of times so that we hear it. So I wrote down here because I didn't want to forget when I got on here. So we brought on this, it was an 8-hour boat rental. It was, by the way, never again. My kid lost it horrendously at the end. He just, he was overheated and couldn't handle it. And it was horrendous at the end. So, you always see all these fun pictures on Instagram. Someone said, oh, I see you doing all this fun stuff. And I thought, yeah, you're seeing a few days per year. The rest of the time it's the backyard. But my point is, what do we bring on this? So I had my husband get a veggie tray. I just love it. The veggies, you dip it in ranch. Everyone loved it. Okay, so veggie tray. We brought some cut up fruit. We made some sandwiches at home. And then, of course, there were chips, drinks, brought a protein bar, stuff like that. Let me be real here, what I actually had there. I had the veggie tray to start out with. I was pretty hungry. We did this boat rental as of I think 9 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't eaten or had much food or anything before we got on it. So I started with the veggies because I was like, let me make sure to prioritize that fiber. And then the sandwich that I brought had that really dark rye bread that I talk a lot about. It's called the fitness bread. It has 10 grams of fiber. I think it's 5 grams of protein. And I did it with cheese. And I felt phenomenal. Could swim. I mean, we were just swimming for hours and hours in the lake. So I felt great. I gave myself a fighting shot at it. Of course, I still had some of the fruit and probably a bag, we brought the little bags of chips, the variety packs. Everyone could have what they wanted. Of course, I still had some of that stuff. But you know what? I had a fighting shot at it. Okay. And then the drinks as well. Of course, we're a family that's really into, obviously we brought water, but we're really into the 0-calorie drinks. So we had Coke Zero and Sprite Zero and all those kind of things. So that's not ever really a challenge for us. But I just want to put it out there that it doesn't matter if you have some pretzels or some chips, things like that. But the whole day doesn't need to be a bust. You can still, literally the next day I'm feeling great right now as I'm recording this. And we spent a whole day out in the sun, this and that. I feel great right now because I just stayed on top of the liquids, stayed on top of foods that support me, and it didn't take over. It really didn't. Okay. So I just want to today, and then there was one other example that I wanted to give. Also, with giving yourself a fighting chance at things, you need to be willing to lower the bar at times. Okay. You need to be willing to lower it way down. So for example, this conference, I normally, if you meet me the other 365 days a year, I always take a walk in the morning, unless it is hailing outside or super hot or cold, then I'll use my walking pad. But other than that, I get a walk in every morning. The reason being the rest of the workday is really busy for me. And I just, I can get little 5 minutes in here and there, but it's not the same way as it is when you get a long walk in. Well, there was no time at this conference. There was a time zone change a little bit where I was, not dramatically, but an hour still affects me. And the travel and talking to friends. I mean, every day it was 7 till 10:30 at night, which again, I know I don't really go to sleep earlier than that. There was not a time for a walk in the morning. Well, guess what? I think it was day 3. So the other 2 days, there was enough walking around in the hotel because everything was kind of far distance away. I was getting at least, I think, over 3,000 steps. But the third day, I finally said, okay, I've got 20 minutes here this morning. Or was it day 2? I can't remember. And I just literally, and by the way, the hotel was very unwalkable too. Isn't this fun? Every single roadblock, because you were between multiple highways. It was like where the hotel was, there was literally every single side had a highway on it. And then there was not a big parking lot because you know me, I'm all about a parking lot walk at a hotel. And so you know what I did? In front of the hotel, there was this sort of like bigger courtyard. And I just walked in circles and I did a mile. And you could minimize that. You could say, oh, it's only a mile. Guess what? It maybe was less than 20 minutes by the time I came down and came back to the hotel room, but I got a little walk in. And that, with the rest of the steps that day, it equaled a good day. So I lowered the bar down. I still did a little bit of a walk. I probably could have done that on the other days if I set my alarm earlier, but with the time change and the travel and all the things, to me, it became apparent I didn't want to get up earlier than 6:30. I'm that person. I shower. I'm at the conference with wet hair. I don't even care. I was just like, I can't. When you start this early, I can't. Okay, so that's the thing I wanted to just share here today. Let's give yourself a fighting chance. Do a little bit of planning, but you can still flex with it, but you're still going to get your protein and fiber. You're going to get your liquids in, and you're going to give yourself variety in these different scenarios. They pop up constantly. I think this episode is going to come out after the July 4th weekend, but that's another, like, there's just so many weekends, especially if you're in the States, where there are different holiday weekends. There's different things happening 24/7. And just give yourself a shot at this. Again, Walmart, Costco, all the places, they have the veggie trays that have different options on the outside, the ranch on the inside. That seems to be the fan favorite at my house, but you can make them yourself. When my kid had his 5th birthday party here recently, I actually cut the veggies up myself because I was in a phase of like, I don't want to spend the money. So I cut up some like green peppers. I got some baby carrots. I forget what else. I put a picture on social if you followed me at the time. I did a rotisserie chicken where I took that off the bone for people. So there was that as a chicken option for people that were eating meat. So it can be simple. These things don't need to be complicated. And with time, they will just naturally come into your day, but give yourself a fighting chance at it. If you don't even have the option to pick a veggie there or to have anything that resembles a protein, you end up usually, it's not this, ooh, this amazing treat, I get all the cake. You actually feel horrible afterward. Have some of the cake, but balance it out. We're going to do some protein and fiber first so that your blood sugar is more balanced. And then when you have that cookie, that cake, whatever it looks like, you will literally feel okay. I want to leave with one story. So the friend that was with me there, she does really well with intermittent fasting. So she will, she has a lunch and a dinner, but she just isn't hungry in the morning, doesn't eat. Remember, by the way, if you haven't followed me for a while, that there's actually a genetic variant in that. So some people do amazing with intermittent fasting because they actually have a gene where they're not hungry in the morning. So don't sit around and think that, oh, well, if I just got myself used to this. Yes, there is an aspect of reprogramming your ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, but also realize there's a genetic component to it. So if you can kind of never get yourself on board, if that's something that you're pursuing and you like your reasons for doing it, I am not at this point in time a super big proponent of intermittent fasting for everyone. There's a time and a place. There's a certain person it works well for. But again, I don't sit there en masse and recommend that because the data just isn't there for everyone. And so she was doing intermittent fasting and she broke her fast in the morning with having, was it cookies or cake? What was it? There was something where it was straight carb. She was literally at the conference. Her knees were shaking and she felt so poorly having done that instead of having had a meal that really supported her. So it's very interesting, like the actual physiology that happens when we eat in a certain way. So anyway, I wanted to today was much more a conversational episode. There was much more almost me dumping what happened at that conference, but it's quite fascinating when I go to these different things. I am truly in a different universe for a few days. I definitely learn a bunch. A lot of the people that I met were just super incredible. And then I also saw that there's much more work to do and I will continue to be out there and doing it. And I want to just leave it here today. Give yourself that shot to be successful in whatever way it looks like. And I hope you have an amazing rest of the week. Oh, I wanted to leave with this. If you got to the end of this, we have an amazing new resource for you. And it's when your doctor started you on a GLP-1 and now what? So I've put together a playlist for people that, and you don't even have to be newly started, but let's say that you wanted to know, hey, what are the top 10 episodes, kind of a roadmap from my podcast here that you should listen to if you're new on these meds, or you kind of want to figure out like one place where I list all the different episodes that talk about side effects and how to track stuff and sort of how to navigate what really matters with these meds. And I talk about the mechanisms, all of that. That's going to be in a Spotify playlist. You can get access to that in the show notes. Will be the link, and then we'll give you access to that and you'll get that playlist. So that, again, it's called My Doctor Started Me on a GLP-1, Now What? And that's a curated list that I made from previous episodes because, believe it or not, we're almost getting to the 2-year mark here. Doesn't time fly? So for those of you that haven't known me before, I podcasted for about 4 years before that. So we're almost 6 years into this. Wow. So if you want that link, again, that link's going to be in the show notes. If you don't know how to access the show notes, then you can always find that renteaclinic.com/blog. And the name of this episode, just look for it on that blog page, and you can expand to read the full post, and we'll always have the links to everything that I talk about. All right, today was a little bit of a longer episode, but I hope that you enjoyed. Leave us a review wherever you're listening, as that really helps more people to find this, and tag me on social if you ever have any great thoughts about an episode or a topic that you'd like, anything like that. All right, we'll talk soon. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend. I'm listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.